You know when the idea of a rock and roll a Hall of Fame really began in earnest, a lot of people got on the bandwagon. That was in the late 1980s. Now, I covered this story. I've covered every aspect of this story from the late 1980s all the way to the present day. Well, on the way to building it in 1995, a couple of disc jockeys right here in Cleveland, a couple of well-known disc jockeys in the late 1980s said, hey, we got to get on board. We've got to make this thing happen. They gave us a big push. And this is the story of those two disc jockeys.
98.5 NCX, Cleveland's classic rock. Jeff Kinsbach along with Ed Flash Ferentz this morning.
Together again, rockin' and rollin', baby. Radio legends Ed Flash Ferentz and Jeff Kinsbach of WMMS history. A couple of decades back, they heated the music airwaves. Fun-loving Cleveland radio.
100.7 WMMS 855. All right.
Some things don't change. They still rock. Now guesting on WNCX, Talking the Talk.
Jeff and Flash on your radio this morning.
Flash works for the Cleveland Municipal Courts and moonlights with a weekly radio interview show. Jeff Kinsbach, out of town for years, is now back, working in stock and commodities trading. But this day spins a nostalgic recall of the 70s and 80s when they were voices of WMMS.
19 years old when we got into radio. And it's like, this was a hobby. And imagine, you know, you're getting paid for this kind of thing.
Playing the great music that we grew up with, that was a real special time for us.
Yeah. These two radio guys and the others on their Buzzard Morning Zoo helped set the stage for Cleveland's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In the 1980s, idea of a rock hall somewhere had begun to bubble. Cleveland already knew it could rock.
Cleveland actually sold more albums per capita than any other place in the world. And that's what really got us onto the rock and roll capital of the world, so to speak.
Cleveland was music. In the 50s, radio disc jockey Alan Freed popularized the old rhythm and blues term rock and roll. Out of his show grew the world's first rock concert. But the Moondog Coronation Ball was so oversold, ticket holders who couldn't get in stormed the doors anyway, ending the show. Yeah, baby, Cleveland rocked. Decades later, when USA Today newspaper pushed for a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame somewhere, Jeff and Flash talked up the town, telling listeners to phone the newspaper and vote Cleveland. Well, that's when things really began to jump. The powers behind the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame began to say, hey, we better look at Cleveland. In fact, they had to.
Embarrassed into moving into Cleveland. You know what? They had no choice because of that readers poll. Otherwise, there's going to be a riot on his hands because so many people demanded it.
And we'd already rioted with the Moondog Coronation Ball, so
right.
we showed we could riot.
He is a student of history.
So Cleveland became center of the world, helping the globe spin in the rhythm and rhyme of rock and roll.
Thank you guys for what you did.
Oh, it's our pleasure, and I know you had your hands in it too.
Everybody had a piece of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Exactly. When's our wing going to open up?